Hello, everybody, and welcome to the advanced class. We have our next lesson, and it is going to be very interesting. We are going to cover speculation and deduction in grammar and verbs, degrees of certainty with verbs. I think the vocabulary is very interesting. It's very unusual, and it's combined with listening. You're going to hear sounds that you hear on a daily basis or a weekly basis that you might not know how you express this sound in English or how you describe it. And so we're going to look at that. I think this is really interesting. And some of these things that you know, but yet you don't know exactly how to say it in English. And then pronunciation, you will practice consonant clusters. Clusters are sort of groups. So let's begin. Sounds and the human voice. This is interesting. I quite like A. It has a Buddhist overtone to it, or it's yoga-esque. I will, anytime you put the ES, I said yoga-esque, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but anything that's esque is of the sort of. So meditation, it doesn't go with meditation because it's too long, but yoga-esque sort of flows. It's like yoga. That's what esque means. It's like yoga. It has hints of Buddhism. Hints of Buddhism, you can say, reminds you of it a little bit. So try to sit in silence for 1 minute, listening carefully to the sounds around you. Write everything you hear, then compare with a partner. Did you hear the same things? You know, I did this exercise once for an Instagram video, but actually just for sight, not for sound, because it's too hard to pick up on the recording. But I would challenge you to do this. Maybe you're walking, maybe you're inside. Just listen to all the sounds in your apartment or house or in your neighborhood, and then see if you can describe them in English. So we're going to go to 166, which is right here, the sounds of the human voice. Now, as it happens, the English file produces some very helpful audios. So this is a great listening, I think also speaking exercise, but listening mainly. And you're going to try to match the collocations of these words that sound. They sound like the word they describe. This is an onomatopoeic sound. That's the adjective. There is the noun. And so sometimes words sound like they mean. And this is quite interesting. What I've decided to do is look at some of these and show you very common idioms that I would use. And I think it's really helpful because these are really popular. I don't know if you can see the admin. I have an admin button here. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've highlighted ones where I'm going to talk about some idioms that I use. So if you go out with a bang, that means you end your performance or whatever, if you're at a party and you leave, if you go out with a bang, you end on a high note. People will remember you. It was a great finale. Crash, we know what literally crash means. Cars crash. But I crashed at work is very interesting. This is obviously an informal or second or tertiary meaning, which means I fell asleep because I was so tired. I crashed at work. I just fell asleep in my office. I was so tired I couldn't even go home. Crunch, when I think of crunch, I think of crunch time. It's crunch time. Crunch time means it's the moment you have to perform. Okay, we've waited, we say dilly-dally. This is a great word, actually. We've dilly-dallied around. This is a very American, old-fashioned American. I love this word, though. We dilly-dallied around, meaning we wasted our time. You know, we played around. We didn't take work seriously. Now it's crunch time. Dilly-dally is actually, but I've used it in the past. I think that's how you do it. I think that's how you said. I've actually, these slang words I never actually see in writing, so I'm not sure how they're spelled. But now, after you've wasted all your time, you can remember this in terms of studies. You procrastinate, you put it off, and suddenly now you have that much time left. It's crunch time. It's now or never. I've got to get it done. It's a great phrase. Hoot is funny, and it's probably one you won't hear much. Oh, I made a mistake even. I don't give a hoot. If you don't give a hoot, you don't care. Now, owls hoot, but if you don't give a hoot, you don't care. It's a softer way of saying I don't give a damn. Damn is a little bit of a curse word. It's a stronger word. So if you want to soften it a little bit, you say I don't give a hoot. I don't care. Ho hum. How was the performance? How was the outdoor performance? It was ho hum. It was okay. Not great. I was a bit bored. Ho hum is sort of in the middle, but a little tending towards being boring. Roar is, I associate roar, lions roar, obviously, but roar, the roaring 20s. And this is difficult to pronounce. Listen to this. The roaring 20s. Roaring means you're having a lion of it. Well, life is lionized. It's bigger than life. You're having an amazing time. The 20s in the US until the stock market crash in 1929 was that period. Everyone was happy because everyone was making money. The stock market was going up. So everyone was excited. Slam. If something's a slam dunk, this is a basketball term, it's like easy. You got this. So you could say, you got this. That's a slam dunk. I mean, that's easy. I did it. Whistle. I only put this in because it reminds me of growing up. Whistling Dixie. Nobody has heard of this. It's an old-fashioned Southern term, and I apologize for putting on a term that you'll never hear again. So you don't have to remember this one, but I just want to put it in there because I'm at home now and it reminds me of home. Whistling Dixie. It's a Southern term. Dixie has a lot of meanings. There was a political party in the United States called the Dixiecrats, who I think in 1948 was around, and I think even in the 19th century, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on that. But it was an old political party. But if you're whistling, it's not related to that actually. If you're whistling Dixie, it means you're having a great time. It was really fun. I was whistling Dixie, so that's quite a fun thing to do. Now we have, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to follow through with these listenings. You're going to match the terms with obviously the statements and then play the sound. I think you have to actually play the sound first. You have 4.7, then you listen and check 4.8. Now you can match, actually right here then, match the verbs and definitions. So you've got them here. And I think this is really good vocabulary practice. It's going to be difficult. You will not know all of these. I don't want to tell you what they are because that's the point of the assignment, and you've got the audio files. But I just want to put mumble down because there's a funny phrase associated with mumble. So what's all this mumble jumble? Mumble jumble means it's not very clear. It's just, I don't understand. It's all mumble jumble. And it could be poorly written. It could be that it's just, I don't know, instructions manual to a telephone, you know, and all of this fine print. But mumble jumble, maybe you don't understand the person. They're talking not very clearly. It was all mumble jumble. I didn't understand any of it. I like that phrase. All right, so then you've got a little bit more here, 4.9. Now we're going to go back to pronunciation. Consonant clusters. And I'm going to let you go ahead and practice these. I'm going to just note the box here. Boxes, when you see a box, you want to pay attention to it because it's trying to illustrate an important point. Fine-tuning your pronunciation. So combinations of 2 or 3 consonant sounds crunch, splash. So CR is a consonant cluster, SPL consonant cluster can be difficult to pronounce. 3 consonant clusters at the beginning of words always begin with S. Isn't that funny? Street, scream. 3 consonant clusters at the end are often plurals. So months or regular past tense, asked, and third person singular, wants. All right, so just be aware that these sort of these 3-part consonant clusters can sometimes provide some difficulty. In our next live, I'm going to be listening for those. Again, if you have any questions on pronunciation, you can try to practice these words in the speaking club, or you can send me an audio file just to check it. I have one here. You're going to practice some of these words. I just want to use one word that is very common today, and you should know about it at the advanced level, and that is click. We use this word, especially in the US, but everywhere. We clicked. So if your friend calls and say, hey, how was the meeting with John? We clicked. We clicked from the very beginning. We clicked. We got along so well. We clicked. All right, you're going to do these sentences, listen and repeat. Now, I know for some of you, this is mundane. You're repeating sentences, and why can't you teach us? And this is teaching you. I just want to offer one bit of advice, since a lot of you are teachers out there. There's a tendency to try to want to create novelty or do it yourself because textbooks are seen as old-fashioned or out of touch. I strongly disagree, because most of the teaching material I've seen produced by individual bloggers or content creators are poorly designed on many levels. So you should trust more good pedagogy, people who are experts in their profession and in their fields. And so I like going through this systematically because it's been thought about and designed for multiple years. It wasn't created in a week or a month. This would take more than a year to put together. So you're not going to likely come up with something better. I'm sorry to tell you that. Now, with the invention and advent of AI, advent is a great word, by the way. So I'm going to put that down. With the advent, the beginning, with the advent of AI, of course, this does offer some new possibilities, and we will be sort of introducing some of that later in the course when it's deemed appropriate. Deemed appropriate is really nice. When it's deemed appropriate. Deemed appropriate means when it's considered, or when it's thought necessary or at the right moment. But we're going to follow through with a lot of this. I'm just going to talk about these because I'm not sure you all know what these mean. You might, if you rev a motorbike, you rev up the engine. So you crank up the engine, it starts to spin faster and it has a louder sound. So you've heard motorcycles rev up, it gets really loud. And then the patter of rain, we say pitter patter, or the patter of rain, both. But these are very difficult words that I would be surprised if most of you knew, because they're just not very common. All right, now this is a little bit unclear the way I've done it. So just so you see here, here's listening 3, which you're going to do. Here are all of the sounds, but you have to skip down here to listening file 413 and 414, and also here, got all these listenings. There, then that's where the audio files are. So you can associate them and not be confused, because I put in this vocabulary bank between the pages. All right, so you've got some homework there to do, and we're going to look at grammar of speculation and deduction, and we're going to move right to the grammar bank. And here's how I would approach this. We're doing modal verbs, which are very critical, very important in the English language, and we're speculating. We're thinking, wow, this has to be so or something. So This should be or must be. We have must, may, might, can, could, should, and ought. All right. Now, here's what I recommended. I'm actually going to go through this with you, and I'd like you to repeat it after me. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Have I ever used this modal verb in a similar function? If you have, you don't need to study it. If you feel comfortable with it. Only revise is a British term. Study is an American term. Only revise the modal verbs that you don't use much. That's how you're expanding. You're studying in a very smart way. So here we go. You can repeat after me. Let's do some pronunciation, more pronunciation practice if you want. That must be an electric car. I'm only going to do part of it. So if you use must be, then we don't have to worry about practicing it very much. You must have seen him. He walked right by you. He was standing right in front of you. Sorry. He was standing right in front of you. Number 2, they can't be playing very well. They're losing 3-0. By the way, Brits say 3-0. Americans say 3-0. 3-0. 3-0. There's another very I say common expression. They're getting shut out. 3-0. Maybe 3-0. Maybe we say that. I'm not sure. I think it's more British. You couldn't have spent, or you can't have spent. Honestly, I don't use can't here. I use couldn't. You couldn't have spent very long on the essay. You've only written 100 words. So if you haven't used couldn't have spent in a sentence that you uttered means spoken. I'm going to write that down because it's a very nice word that you've uttered, spoken. If you've not used that, if you've not uttered that phrase, couldn't have spent, then that's one you want to sort of focus on and try to use in the future. I haven't seen the sales manager today. He may be off sick. He might be off sick. He could be off sick. They all mean the same thing. 3 options, past and present, but they all mean the same. And that's where it can get slightly confusing. I'm going to go right to the next one, but the second sentence, do you think someone could have taken them? Do you think someone might have taken them? I think those are the 2 most common. I don't use may here. Do you think someone might have taken them, could have taken them? I use the past here because of the fact if the theft would have occurred earlier. All right, he might not have heard the message I left. If I post the letter today, it ought to arrive on Friday. It should arrive on Friday. Both are fine. It ought to arrive. Ought, I think, is a little bit more formal. I think it's less common. Should is a lot more common, but both are perfectly fine. I posted the letter a week ago. It should have arrived. It ought to have arrived. I almost never say ought to have arrived, but it's perfectly fine to use it. All right. If you have any questions about, if you have any grammar questions, we have some of the rules below. I've highlighted them. Remember, the numbers correspond with the grammar rules. So you can see here how they are used. We also use must plus infinitive to say we are almost sure of something. So if you're not sure, here is where they give you, I like this because it's grammar rules in the vernacular. This is a great word. It's a theological term. It's grammar rules in the vernacular. Vernacular is like the spoken language, the language of use. In other words, it's a sort of just a normal average explanation that doesn't sound too grammary, so you can easily understand it. All right. Let's continue. Adjectives and adverbs for speculation. I'm guessing that these are going to be new. So he's bound or he's sure to be here in a minute. He's sure to be here is, I think, common. and you might have used it or probably used it. He's bound to be here. I think few people have used it. So you can look at those. She's bound to know. I use this a lot, or we use this in the US quite a bit. They're bound to know. Ask them. They just got back from that country. They're bound to know. They're bound to, be able to help you. Probably not that. They're bound to know. All right. So bound and sure, I'm reading below here, are adjectives. We use bound or be sure plus to plus infinitive to say that we think something is certain to be true. That's right. You're bound to improve your English with my course. Something that is certain to be true. All right. Likely or unlikely, number 2. I think she's unlikely to agree. She's likely to agree. I think these are probably straightforward. I don't need to go through them. Number 3, she'll definitely pass the exam. Definitely, probably, we know. I don't want to insult your intelligence. This is a nice phrase. Insult your intelligence means you talk about concepts that people already know about, and they're thinking, does he think I'm stupid? We know this already. You don't need to explain it. Don't insult my intelligence. I'm smarter than you think. Okay. So I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I'm going to let you get on with the exercises in A and B. All right. Now, that's the grammar part. Now, this is really interesting. The last part I want to talk about, you are not assigned the reading. So this is completely optional. I'm not going to talk much about it except during our speaking classes and things. But I want to talk about 2 words here that I think you're going to find really interesting, especially the second one. So hang on, watch till the end. Devised is a literary meeting place. Devise means you've created something. I've devised a plan. I've thought of a plan. I've created a plan, but devised is very nice. They've devised a plan. You can also hatch a plan. Hatch is a big word. They've hatched a plan. Chickens hatch eggs and people hatch plans. So it's a metaphor from the chicken and the egg. We actually don't know which was first. But we do know that people did come first. They hatched the plans and not vice versa. So created or devised a plan. Now, shut up is interesting. The idea was simple. Show up, shut up, and read. And so I thought it would be interesting to talk about different ways we can express this feeling or this sentiment. So what are different ways we can tell people to shut up? Shut up is obviously very strong. It's offensive. You can't, in English, tell people to shut up. It's very strong. Parents might tell their children this when they're very frustrated. But in general, this is very rude. So let's discuss ways we can do this tactfully. Tactfully is with tact. Tactfully, with tact, with care, gentle. So polite. Could we change the subject? Let's discuss this later. This is a very indirect, very soft way of getting people not to talk about it. Now, if you want to be more neutral, tolerable, we could say, please, let's focus. Please, let's focus. In other words, don't talk about that. Let's focus. Quiet, please. Could you keep it down? So if you're in public, if you tell people to shut up, it's very aggressive. You might get yourself in a confrontation. But if you ask, could you keep it down, please? We should add please there at the end. Could you keep it down, please? It's a little, people can accept that more. Let's quiet down a bit it's a little bit commanding. So I'm not sure, you got to be a little bit careful with that one. Let's quiet down a bit. A teacher could say, but in public, it sounds like you own the bus or the train or the metro, and you clearly don't. So you got to be a little bit careful with that one. Less polite. Here's where it gets more informal. Zip it. Now you zip you have a zipper on a coat or your jeans, but zip it. Zip it's informal. It's not quite as strong because zip is not so strong, but it's pretty direct. Hold your tongue. I think that's actually not so strong. Could you hold your tongue? But button it, zip it, button it is, you know, pipe down is aggressive. Pipe down is a musical term. If you pipe down, you keep, so organs have pipes. And if you pipe down, you turn the music down or the volume down. So pipe down is honestly meaning be quiet or shut up. So it's a little, that one's the most aggressive of that group. But here are the most: shut your trap, shut your pie hole. I don't ever say that, just so you understand. Pie hole is where you eat pies from your mouth. So it's a metaphor for mouth. Shut your mouth and put a sock in it so you can't talk. These, honestly, shut your trap is probably the most common. It's not very strong. Shut up is, I think, very, very, very aggressive. So you have to be careful. So my question to you is, which of these have you heard, or which of these have you used, or what do you use in English when you want people to, maybe you don't say anything, you just do this, a non-verbal gesture, or this. Did you keep it down a bit? All right, I'm curious. And as always, we have the answers below, so you can check your answers. And that's it. I'm going to let you off and running. Happy studying, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.